I should have known the night would end in chaos the moment he walked through the door. The restaurant was packed. Saturday nights always were, and I was already juggling 6 tables, a kitchen that couldn't keep up, and a new bartender who kept pouring heavy-handed drinks. My feet ached in my worn sneakers. My apron was stained with marinara sauce, and I had exactly 4 hours left on my shift before I could collapse into bed and pretend the world didn't exist for a few blessed hours. Then he arrived. The entire atmosphere shifted. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they quieted. Heads turned. Even the clatter of silverware seemed to pause as the front door swung open and 3 men in dark suits stepped inside, followed by him. I didn't know his name then. I didn't know anything except that he moved like someone who owned not just the room, but the air inside it. He was tall, over 6 feet easily, with dark hair pushed back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, and eyes so dark they looked black in the dim restaurant lighting. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my rent for the year. Charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, the kind of tailoring that whispered wealth rather than shouted it. But it wasn't the suit or the looks that made my pulse stutter. It was the way everyone else reacted to him. Marco, our manager, practically tripped over himself rushing to greet them. The hostess went pale. Even Tony in the kitchen stuck his head through the pass-through window, his usual scowl replaced with something that looked disturbingly like fear. "Valentina?" Marco hissed, grabbing my arm as I passed with a tray of drinks. "Table 7, now." I glanced over. The man had chosen the corner booth, the best table in the house, the one we usually reserved for anniversaries and proposals. His men flanked him like sentries, their eyes scanning the room with mechanical precision. "I've got 6 tables already, Marco. Give it to, now, Valentina. Don't argue." Something in his voice made my skin prickle. Fear. Marco was afraid of this man. I set down my tray and grabbed menus, my mind racing. In 3 years of working at Giordano's, I'd served politicians, celebrities, even a retired NFL player once. Marco had never looked at any of them like this. My hands trembled slightly as I approached the table. "Get it together, Val. Just another customer. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Scotch. Macallan 25. Neat." His voice cut through my greeting like a blade, low, cold, absolute. He didn't look up from his phone. I blinked. "Sir, I need to..." Did I stutter? Now he did look up, and the full force of those dark eyes hit me like a physical blow. "Macallan 25. Neat. 3 fingers. Now." The man to his right smirked. The one on his left remained stone-faced. Something hot and defiant flared in my chest. I'd dealt with rude customers before, entitled businessmen, drunk college kids, married men who, I thought a smile and a tip entitled them to my phone number. But there was something about his tone, the casual cruelty of it, that made my spine straighten. "I'll need to see your IDs first," I said, keeping my voice pleasant but firm. "Restaurant policy." The smirking man actually laughed. "You're joking." "I don't joke about liquor laws." I pulled out my order pad. "IDs, please, or I can start you gentlemen with water while you look over the menu." The temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. He set his phone down slowly, deliberately. When he looked at me this time, really looked at me, I felt like a specimen under glass, examined, catalogued, and found. "Interesting. What's your name?" he asked, his voice quieter now but no less dangerous. "Valentina. And you are?" The smirking man made a choking sound. Even the stone-faced one shifted uncomfortably. He leaned back against the leather booth, one arm stretched along the top, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp as knives. A smile ghosted across his lips, not warm, not kind, but fascinated. "You don't know who I am." It wasn't a question. I didn't answer. "Interesting." He tilted his head, studying me. "Do you treat all your customers this way, Valentina?" "Only the rude ones." The words were out before I could stop them. The table went silent. Someone dropped a glass across the restaurant, and the crash seemed to echo forever. I'd gone too far. I knew it instantly. Marco would fire me. These men would complain. I'd lose the best-paying job I'd had in years, all because I couldn't keep my mouth shut when faced with entitled arrogance. But instead of anger, that dangerous smile widened. "Rude," he repeated, tasting the word. "No one has ever called me rude before." "First time for everything," I muttered. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face for a heartbeat, making him look younger, almost human. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold, calculating mask. "Bring me the Macallan." "No ID." Necessary, I'm sure Marco will vouch for me. And Valentina? He said my name like a promise. Don't disappear. We're not finished. I should have nodded and walked away. Should have done my job and forgotten the encounter. Instead, I met his eyes. I have 5 other tables. You'll have to wait your turn like everyone else. I turned on my heel and walked away, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Behind me, I heard the smirking man whisper, "Boss, I know." His voice was soft, almost wondering. She's the first to refuse me. I made it 3 steps before I heard him speak again, louder now, clear enough that I couldn't pretend not to hear. "Luca, when her shift ends, bring her to me." I froze, my blood turning to ice. Marco appeared at my elbow, his face ashen. "Valentina, do you have any idea what you just did?" I looked back at the corner booth. He was watching me, his dark eyes gleaming with something that looked like hunger. "Who is he?" "I," whispered. Marco's hand shook as he gripped my shoulder. "Dante Caruso. And you just became the most interesting thing in his world." "Caruso?" The name meant nothing to me. "The Caruso family, Valentina. He doesn't just own this neighborhood. He owns half the city." Marco's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. "And when Dante Caruso wants something, he takes it." The world tilted sideways. I looked at the door so close, maybe 20 feet then, back at the man in the corner booth. Dante Caruso. He raised his glass to me in a mock toast, that dangerous smile playing at his lips. I just ignored the most powerful man in the city, and now he wanted me brought to him. I couldn't breathe. The rest of my shift passed in a blur of forced smiles and shaking hands. I dropped an order of lasagna. Forgot to refill water glasses. Nearly charged the wrong credit card because I couldn't focus on anything except the weight of those dark eyes tracking my every movement across the restaurant. Dante Caruso never looked away, even when his men leaned in to speak to him. Even when Marco personally delivered their meals with the kind of obsequious attention usually reserved for visiting royalty, his gaze followed me, patient, predatory, inevitable. "You need to leave through the back," Sarah whispered as she passed me near the kitchen. She was my only real friend at Giordano's, a single mom working 2 jobs who'd trained me when I first started. "Tony says there's a car waiting out front. Black Mercedes. His men." My stomach dropped. "I can't just leave. Marco will." Marco's terrified. "We all are." She grabbed my wrist, her fingers cold. "Valentina, do you understand what family he belongs to? The Carusos don't ask twice. They don't take no for an answer. If Dante wants to see you, then he can make an appointment like a normal person." But my voice shook, betraying the fear I was trying to smother with false bravado. Sarah's eyes filled with pity. "There's nothing normal about Dante Caruso." At 10:47 p.m., Marco pulled me aside. The restaurant was mostly empty now, just a few stragglers finishing dessert. The corner booth sat vacant. Dante and his men had left 20 minutes ago, but the air still felt heavy with his presence. "Your shift is over," Marco said. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Go home, Valentina. And tomorrow, maybe don't come in." "You're firing me?" Anger cut through my fear. Because some entitled asshole didn't like being treated like a regular customer? "I'm trying to protect you." Marco's voice cracked. "You have no idea what you've done. Dante Caruso doesn't forget. He doesn't forgive. And when he tells his men to bring someone to him..." He stopped, his face going gray. "Just go. Please." I ripped off my apron and stormed into the back room to grab my jacket and purse. My hands trembled as I shoved my arms through the sleeves. This was insane. I lived in America, in a city with laws and police and rights. Some criminal, no matter how powerful, couldn't just summon me like I was a possession to be collected. The back door seemed like the smart choice. Slip out through the alley, catch the bus 3 blocks over, disappear into my tiny apartment and pretend tonight never happened. But even as I pushed through the kitchen toward the rear exit, I knew I was deluding myself. Men like Dante Caruso didn't issue threats. They made promises. The alley was dark, lit only by a flickering streetlight and the red glow of the exit sign above my head. I sucked in the cold November air, trying to steady my racing heart. I made it 5 steps before a figure stepped out of the shadows. "Miss Valentina." The voice was polite, almost apologetic. "Mr. Caruso is waiting." "Luca." The stone-faced man from the table. Up close, he was even more intimidating, broad-shouldered, with a scar running through his left eyebrow and eyes that held no warmth whatsoever. Tell Mr. Caruso, he can keep waiting. I tried to step around him. He moved to block me, not touching, not threatening, just present. An immovable wall between me and freedom. I can't do that, miss. Then we have a problem. My voice sounded braver than I felt. Because I'm going home. Mr. Caruso simply wants to talk. 5 minutes. He'll have you home by midnight. And if I refuse? For the first time, something flickered in Luca's eyes. Not cruelty, but something worse, pity. Please don't make this difficult. My mind raced through options. Scream? We were in the warehouse district, no one would hear or care. Run? He'd catch me in seconds. Fight? I'd lose. If I get in that car, I said slowly, how do I know he'll let me leave? You don't. The honesty was somehow more terrifying than a lie would have been. But Mr. Caruso is a man of his word. He says 5 minutes, he means 5 minutes. Behind Luca, the black Mercedes idled at the alley's entrance, its tinted windows revealing nothing. My phone was in my purse. I could call 911. Could your friend Sarah? Luca said quietly. She has a daughter, 7 years old, Emma, loves ballet. He let the words hang in the air, their implication clear without being spoken. Ice flooded my veins. You wouldn't. We wouldn't. But there are others in this city who don't share Mr. Caruso's restraint. The Bratva, the Sanchez cartel. If word got out that someone disrespected Dante Caruso and walked away unpunished, it would look like weakness, and weakness attracts predators. His expression remained neutral, factual. 5 minutes of your time prevents a great deal of chaos. He was threatening Sarah, Emma, using my care for them as a weapon. I wanted to hate him for it, but the worst part was, I believed him. 5 minutes, I repeated, my voice hollow. 5 minutes. The Mercedes's back door opened as we approached. The interior was pure luxury leather seats, ambient lighting, a privacy screen separating the driver from the back. And there, waiting with the patience of a spider in its web, was Dante Caruso. He'd removed his suit jacket. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing a triangle of olive skin and the hint of a tattoo. He held a crystal tumbler of amber liquid. The Macallan I'd never brought him. Valentina. My name on his lips sounded like a sin. Please, sit. I climbed into the car, my body rigid with tension. Luca closed the door behind me, sealing me in with the most dangerous man in the city. The space suddenly felt too small, too intimate. I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke. You're afraid, Dante observed, swirling his scotch. I'm smart, I countered. That dangerous smile returned. Yes, you are. He took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving mine. Tell me, Valentina, why did you speak to me that way tonight? No one speaks to me that way. Maybe they should. His laugh was low, genuine, and somehow more frightening than his anger would have been. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. You're a customer. You were rude. I called you on it. I lifted my chin, refusing to show how badly my hands were shaking. If that makes me foolish, fine. But I won't apologize for having self-respect. Self-respect. He tested the words, his expression unreadable. Do you know who I am? Dante Caruso. Marco seems to think you're important. And you? What do you think? I met his eyes. I think you're a man who's used to people being afraid of him, who uses that fear to get what he wants, who threatened an innocent woman and her child to get me into this car. My voice shook with anger now, not fear. I think you're exactly the kind of man I want nothing to do with. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Dante did something that shattered every expectation. He smiled. Not the cold, calculating expression from before, but something raw and real. You're remarkable, he said softly. Do you know how long it's been since someone looked at me and saw a man instead of a monster? I see both, I whispered. His eyes darkened with something I couldn't name. Hunger, pain, fascination. So do I. He leaned forward, and I caught my breath pressed back against the door, but he simply set his glass in the center console, his movements deliberate. 5 minutes are up, Valentina. Luca will take you home. His voice was rough now, stripped of its earlier coldness. But know this, you've awakened something in me. I thought long dead. Curiosity, interest. He paused. Desire. I don't want. What you want stopped mattering the moment you looked me in the eye and refused to bow. He reached out, and I flinched, but he only opened the door behind me. Sleep well, Valentina. I'll see you again soon. No, you won't. Yes, he said with absolute certainty. I will. Luca was waiting outside, ready to drive me home. I climbed out on shaking legs, desperate to put distance between myself and the man in that car. But as the Mercedes pulled away, I could still feel Dante's eyes on me. And I knew, with terrible certainty, that my life would never be the same. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after that. I spent 48 hours in my apartment with the deadbolt locked and my phone clutched in my hand, jumping at every sound in the hallway, every car that slowed on the street below. I told myself I was being paranoid. Dante Caruso was a powerful man. He had more important things to do than obsess over a waitress who'd been rude to him. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, that dangerous smile, the way he'd looked at me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. You've awakened something in me. On the third morning, my landlord knocked on my door. Missus. Chen was 76, widowed, and ran the building with iron efficiency. She didn't knock unless something was wrong. Valentina, open up. I need to talk to you. I cracked the door, keeping the chain in place. Mrs. Chen? Is everything okay? Her weathered face was creased with worry. A man came by yesterday, very well dressed. He said he was looking for you, said he owed you money from the restaurant, wanted to return your wallet. My blood went cold. What did you tell him? Nothing. You think I'm stupid? She pushed a manila envelope through the gap in the door. But he left this. Said to make sure you got it. The envelope was thick, expensive paper. My name was written across the front in elegant script. Valentina. Mrs. Chen. If anyone else comes looking for me. I know. I'll say you moved out. She patted my hand through the opening. But Valentina? Whatever trouble you're in, be careful. That man had cold eyes. I closed the door and stared at the envelope like it might explode. Inside, I found 3 things. A cashier's check for $10,000, a business card with an address embossed in gold, and a handwritten note on heavy cardstock. Valentina, you need better locks. Your building isn't safe. For a woman living alone, this should cover first and last month's rent somewhere more secure. Consider it a severance package from Giordano's. Marco felt terrible about letting you go. If you need anything, my door is always open. I crumpled the note in my fist, rage and fear warring in my chest. He'd found where I lived. He'd spoken to my landlord. He was monitoring me, tracking me, inserting himself into my life like he had the right. And worse, the check was real. I'd called the bank from the number on it, pretending to verify funds. $10,000. Enough to move to a better neighborhood, to buy myself time to find a new job, to breathe. Blood money. That's what it was. I ripped the check in half. Then I stared at the pieces in my hands and thought about my overdue electric bill, my student loans, the part-time work I'd been scraping together that barely covered groceries. Pride was expensive. Self-respect didn't pay rent. I hated him in that moment. Hated that he'd found my weakness and exploited it with surgical precision. The business card sat on my kitchen table for 3 days. On the 4th day, my phone rang from an unknown number. Hello? Miss Valentina. Luca's voice, professional and emotionless. Mr. Caruso requests your presence this evening at 8 o'clock. Tell Mr. Caruso. He's prepared to offer you a job. $25 an hour, flexible schedule, health insurance. All he asks is that you hear him out. I laughed bitterly. A job doing what? I'm not interested in whatever. Tutoring, Luca interrupted. Mr. Caruso has a young cousin who needs help with English literature. You have a bachelor's degree in English from State University. Graduated summa cum laude despite working full-time. He thought you'd be perfect for the position. My breath caught. He'd researched me. Deeply. How do you know about my degree? Mr. Caruso is very thorough when something interests him. A pause. The car will arrive at 7:30. I hope you'll be ready. He hung up before I could refuse. 7:30 came with the inevitability of a storm. I told myself I wouldn't go. Told myself I'd call the police, file a report, get a restraining order. But at 7:15, I was standing in front of my closet, pulling out the one nice dress I owned, a simple black sheath I'd worn to my college graduation. At 7:20, I was applying lipstick with shaking hands. At 7:28, I was waiting on the curb as the black Mercedes pulled up. Luca held the door open. "Miss Valentina, this doesn't mean I'm accepting anything," I said as I climbed in. "I'm just listening." "Of course." The address on the business card led us out of the city, into the hills where old money lived behind gates and walls. We passed mansions that looked like museums, estates that could house 20 families. The Mercedes turned onto a private road lined with iron fencing and security cameras. At the end stood a house, an estate that took my breath away. It was modern Italian architecture, all clean lines and glass walls, lit from within like a jewel box. The entrance was flanked by manicured gardens and a fountain that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. "Mr. Caruso is waiting in his study," Luca said, leading me through a marble foyer that echoed with our footsteps. The interior was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive, tasteful, cold. Modern art on the walls, furniture that belonged in design magazines. Not a personal touch anywhere. It felt more like a high-end hotel than a home. The study was different. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 3 walls, packed with leather-bound volumes and first editions. A massive mahogany desk dominated the space, and behind it, framed by windows overlooking the city lights below, stood Dante Caruso. He traded his suit for dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that hugged his frame. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked younger this way, more human, more dangerous, because he was easier to look at. "Valentina." He set down the book he'd been reading, Dante's Inferno. I noticed with dark irony. "Thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice. You always have a choice." He moved around the desk, and I forced myself not to step back. "You could have refused. Thrown away my card, cashed the check, and disappeared. I ripped up your check." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, respect, something warmer. "Did you? I don't want your money. I don't want your job. I want you to leave me alone." My voice was steadier than I felt. "Whatever this is, whatever you think you want from me, I want you to know me," he interrupted quietly. "Not the monster everyone sees. Not the name that makes men like Marco tremble. Me." I stared at him. "Why?" "Because you looked at me and saw both." He took a step closer, and I could smell cedar and smoke again, could feel the heat of him. "Because when everyone else in that restaurant was afraid, you were angry, defiant, real. I was rude. You were honest. Another step. We were inches apart now. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my world? How exhausting it is to be surrounded by fear and lies and people who tell you only what they think you want to hear?" "That's not my problem." "No," he agreed. "But it could be your opportunity." His hand came up slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving me time to flinch away. When I didn't, his fingers brushed my cheek, feather light, gentle, completely at odds with everything I knew about him. "I'm not asking you to be mine, Valentina. Not yet." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm asking for time. To prove that I'm more than the monster you think I am. To show you that what I feel isn't just obsession or possession, it's something real. And if I say no?" Pain flashed across his face, raw and genuine. "Then I let you go. No more envelopes. No more visits. You'll never see me. Again." He paused. "But you'll always wonder what might have been." My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to refuse, to protect myself from whatever darkness lived in this man. But another part of me, a part I didn't want to acknowledge, whispered that he was right. I would wonder. 1 month, I heard myself say. "You have 1 month to prove you're not just a monster in an expensive suit." Dante's smile was like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. 1 month. He stepped back, giving me space, but his eyes held a promise that made my skin flush with heat. "Your first tutoring session is tomorrow at 4. My cousin Sophia is 13, bright, stubborn, and convinced that classic literature is boring. I think you two will get along perfectly." "This is really about tutoring?" "Yes." Then that dangerous smile returned. "Though I won't pretend I'm not hoping you'll stay for dinner afterward." I should have said no. Should have walked outright. Then, instead, I nodded and sealed my fate. Sophia Caruso was not what I expected. I'd prepared myself for a spoiled Mafia princess designer clothes, attitude, the kind of girl who'd been handed everything and valued nothing. Instead, I found a skinny 13-year-old in ripped jeans and a faded band t-shirt, sprawled across the floor of the estate's library with a dog-eared copy of Romeo and Juliet and a scowl that could cut glass. "You're the tutor?" She looked me up and down with teenage skepticism. You don't look like the last three. What did the last three look like? Old, boring, scared of Dante. She emphasized his first name deliberately, testing me. I set my bag down and settled into a chair. Well, I'm 25. I think Shakespeare is brilliant when taught right. And your cousin terrifies me, but I'm here anyway. Sophia's scowl cracked into an unwilling smile. You actually admitted it. Why lie? Dante's intimidating. But that doesn't mean I can't do my job. He's not that bad once you get to know him. She sat up, tucking her legs underneath her. Everyone thinks he's this cold-blooded killer. But he helped me with my math homework last week. He's actually really patient. The image of Dante Caruso, mob boss, feared criminal patiently explaining algebra to a teenager, was so absurd I almost laughed. So what's the problem with Romeo and Juliet? Sophia groaned. It's stupid. They know each other for like 3 days and decide to die for each other. That's not romance. That's mental illness. I did laugh then. You're not wrong. But what if it's not really about love? What if it's about two kids trapped by their family's hatred, desperate for something pure in a violent world? She tilted her head, considering, I never thought about it like that. Most people don't. They see the romance and miss the tragedy, these two families destroying everything beautiful because they can't let go of old grudges. Like the Carusos and the Morellis, Sophia said quietly. My blood chilled. What? Nothing. Forget it. But her eyes had gone distant, worried. Can we just focus on the homework? We spent the next 2 hours dissecting Shakespeare, and Sophia proved to be sharp as a blade once she was engaged. She asked intelligent questions, made connections I wouldn't have expected, and by the time we finished, she was actually smiling. Same time next week? I asked, packing my materials. Yeah. And Valentina? She hesitated. Thanks for not treating me like I'm stupid. Or dangerous. You're not dangerous, Sophia. My last name is Caruso. Everyone thinks I'm dangerous. She met my eyes, and I saw something heartbreaking there. Loneliness, isolation, the weight of a name she'd never chosen. Except you. You just treat me like a kid who needs help with English. I wanted to hug her. Instead, I squeezed her shoulder. Because that's what you are. Luca was waiting in the hallway. Miss Valentina? Mr. Caruso would like to. I know if you'll join him for dinner. I should have said no. Should have kept this professional, maintained boundaries. Yes, I said instead. Dante was waiting on the terrace. He'd changed again, dark jeans, a black Henley that clung to his shoulders, barefoot. The casual intimacy of it made my stomach flip. This wasn't the controlled mafia boss from the restaurant or the calculated manipulator from the car. This was something closer to the man he'd asked me to see. How was Sophia? He asked as I stepped outside. Brilliant. Stubborn. Lonely. He flinched at the last word. Yes. The terrace overlooked the city, a glittering sprawl of lights below, the distant sound of traffic and sirens. A table was set for 2, wine already poured, food under silver domes. You didn't have to do this, I said. I wanted to. He pulled out my chair, his fingers brushing my back as I sat. The touch sent electricity skittering across my skin. I wanted to thank you. Sophia's been through 3 tutors, in 2 months. You're the first one she didn't hate on sight. Maybe because I didn't come in expecting a monster. Like you expected with me? I met his eyes. Can you blame me? No. He sat across from me, and even in casual clothes, he radiated power. You'd be a fool not to fear what I am. What I've done. What have you done? He lifted his wine glass, studying the deep red liquid. Protected my family, made hard choices, eliminated threats before they could eliminate us. His voice was matter-of-fact, almost detached. I've killed men, Valentina. Not in rage, not in passion and cold calculation, because their existence threatened everything I'm sworn to protect. I should have run, should have felt horrified, disgusted. Instead, I felt something more complicated. Do you regret it? The innocent ones? Yes. Every day. His knuckles whitened on the stem of his glass. The guilty? The men who hurt women and children? Who dealt in human trafficking and suffering? No. I sleep. Fine knowing they're dead. That's a convenient moral line. It's the only line I have left. He set down his glass. My father was different. He believed power came from fear alone, that mercy was weakness. He ruled through terror, crushed anyone who challenged him, left bodies in his wake without a second thought. What happened to him? I killed him. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and absolute. He was going to execute Sophia's mother, my aunt, because she wanted to leave the family. She'd fallen in love with a civilian, wanted a normal life. Dante's voice was hollow now, empty of emotion. My father saw it as betrayal. He assembled the family to watch, to send a message. My God. I put a bullet between his eyes before he could fire. He looked at me then, and I saw the weight of it in his dark eyes, not regret, but something heavier. I was 23. I became the head of this family covered in my father's blood. Does Sophia know? No. She knows her. Mother died in an accident. It's kinder that way. He leaned back, and moonlight painted silver across his sharp features. You asked what I've done. That's the truth. I'm a patricide, a killer, the kind of man your mother warned you about. My mother died when I was 16, I said quietly. She never got to warn me about anything. Something shifted in his expression, pain, recognizing pain. I'm sorry. Don't be. She taught me enough before cancer took her. She taught me that people are complicated, that sometimes the right choice is the hard one, that strength isn't about being fearless, it's about being afraid and doing what needs to be done anyway. She sounds remarkable. She was. I took a sip of wine, letting the warmth spread through me. Is that why you wanted to see me? To confess your sins and see if I'd run? Partly. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. But mostly because sitting here with you, talking about real things instead of business and blood and territory, it's the first time I've felt human in years. My breath caught. Dante, I'm not asking you to absolve me. I'm not asking you to understand. His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of mine. I'm asking you to see me, all of me, the monster and the man, and then decide if 1 month is enough. I looked at his hand-scarred knuckles, a faded burn on his wrist, long fingers that could kill or caress with equal skill. Slowly, I placed my hand over his. I'm seeing you, I whispered. His fingers curled around mine, warm and solid and real. Then see this too. He stood, pulling me with him, and led me to the edge of the terrace. Below, the city stretched endlessly. Above, stars fought against light pollution. This is what I protect, he said softly. Not just my family, not just our territory. Every street down there, every neighborhood, I keep them safe from worse monsters than me. The Bratva would traffic children. The cartels would flood schools with fentanyl. The Italians from the old country would turn this city into a war zone. So you're what? A necessary evil? I'm the devil they know. He turned me to face him, his hands on my shoulders. I won't lie to you about what I am, but I will protect what's mine with every breath in my body. And Valentina, his thumb traced my jaw. You're becoming mine. I don't belong to anyone. I know. That's what makes it real. He lowered his head until his forehead rested against mine. You could walk away right now. I'd let you, but you won't. Why not? Because you feel it too. This thing between us. Dangerous and impossible, and completely insane. He was right. God help me. He was right. When he kissed me, it wasn't the brutal claiming I'd expected. It was soft, questioning, devastatingly gentle. His lips moved against mine like I was precious, like I might break, like this single moment mattered more than anything in his violent world. I kissed him back, and felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. His eyes were black with desire, but he stepped back, giving me space. I should take you home, he said, his voice rough. You should, but I don't want to. I know. We stood there in the moonlight, the city lights below, and I knew with terrifying certainty that I was falling for the most dangerous man I'd ever met, and I had no idea how to stop. The next 2 weeks became a dangerous dance between two worlds. By day, I was Valentina the tutor, arriving at Dante's estate to work with Sophia, discussing literature and poetry while carefully maintaining professional boundaries. By night, I was someone else entirely, the woman who stayed for dinner on the terrace, who let Dante's walls crack open as we talked about everything except his business, movies we'd loved as children, books that had changed us, the strange shared loneliness of people who'd grown up too fast. He never pushed, never demanded more than I was willing to give, but the tension between us grew like a living thing, electric touches that lingered too long, Conversations that blurred the line between appropriate and intimate. Moments when I'd catch him watching me with such raw hunger that my body would respond in ways I couldn't control. I was falling. Slowly, terribly, inevitably falling. And I couldn't bring myself to stop. On a Friday evening, 2 weeks into our agreement, everything changed. I'd just finished with Sophia, we'd tackled The Great Gatsby, and she'd actually gotten excited about the symbolism of the green light when Luca appeared in the doorway, his stone face unusually tense. "Miss Valentina, Mr. Caruso needs to see you immediately." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "Is he okay? Please, come with me." He led me not to the terrace or the study, but down a hallway I'd never been allowed to enter. Security cameras tracked our progress. Electronic locks clicked open at Fighted Luca's approach. We descended stairs into what could only be described as a bunker: concrete walls, reinforced doors, the hum of serious electronics. "Luca, what's going on?" He didn't answer, just opened a final door. The room beyond was a command center, banks of monitors displaying security feeds, satellite imagery, what looked like police radio frequencies. And in the center, standing over a table covered in photographs, was Dante. He'd shed the gentleman from our dinners. This was the Mafia boss, in full jaw clenched, shoulders rigid, violence barely contained in every line of his body. His knuckles were split and bloody. "Dante?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. He looked up, and the fury in his eyes made me step back. Then recognition softened his expression, and he closed his eyes briefly. "You shouldn't see this," he said roughly. "Luca, take her back." "No." I moved closer, my heart hammering. "What happened?" He gestured to the photographs on the table. I forced myself to look. They were surveillance photos. Of me, leaving my apartment, at the grocery store, walking Sophia to her car. Dozens of images, taken from hidden angles over the past 2 weeks. "The Morellis," Dante said, each word clipped and cold. "Our oldest rivals. They've been watching you since the second dinner. They know you've been coming here." Ice flooded my veins. They think you matter to me." His hands clenched into fists. "They're right. So what does that mean?" Dante met my eyes, and I saw something that terrified me more than his anger, fear. "It means you're a target now. Anyone I care about becomes leverage, and the Morellis don't negotiate gently. Then I'll stop coming. I'll disappear. It's too late for that." He moved around the table, his movements predatory. "They've already marked you. If you run, they'll see it as confirmation that you're valuable. They'll grab you off the street and use you to destroy me. So what do I do?" My voice cracked. "Dante, I can't. I'm not built for this. I'm a waitress who tutors on the side. I'm nobody." "You're not nobody." He grabbed my shoulders, his grip almost painful. "You're the first real thing I've felt in 10 years. You're the woman who looked at me and saw something worth saving. He stopped, jaw working. "You're mine, Valentina, and I protect what's mine." "By doing what? Killing more people? Starting a war?" "If necessary." The casual certainty of it made me feel sick. "I can't be responsible for that." "You're not responsible." His thumbs traced circles on my shoulders, trying to soothe even as his words cut. "The Morellis made this choice. They crossed a line. Now I have to respond, or every enemy I have will know my weakness." "I'm your weakness," I whispered. "Yes. No hesitation, no shame. You are. And I wouldn't change it for anything." I pulled away from him, my mind racing. "Then maybe you should let me go. Let them take me. Use me to sublet. Negotiate. No." The word was absolute, final. "I would burn this city to ash before I let anyone take you. Even if innocent people get hurt?" Pain flashed across his face. "Even then." I stared at him, at the blood on his knuckles, the violence simmering beneath his skin, the absolute conviction in his eyes. This was the monster everyone feared, the man who would sacrifice anything, anyone, to protect what he considered his. And God help me, some twisted part of me found it exhilarating. "What happened to your hands?" I asked quietly. "One of their scouts. He made the mistake of getting too close to your apartment building." Dante flexed his fingers, wincing. "He won't make that mistake again." "You killed him." I sent a message. He caught my hand, bringing it to his bloody knuckles. "This is who I am, Valentina. This is what I do. I warned you. I know. I traced the splits in his skin, my touch gentle against the evidence of violence. "Show me how to clean this." He blinked, surprised. "What?" "Your hands. Show me where the first aid supplies are. I want to take care of this." "Valentina, you said I need to see all of you, right? The monster and the man?" I met his eyes. "Then let me. All of you. Even the parts covered in blood." Something broke in his expression. Relief, gratitude, wonder. He led me to a small medical station in the corner, watched as I gathered supplies with shaking hands. I cleaned his knuckles in silence, dabbing away blood, applying antiseptic that made him hiss. His hands were bigger than mine, scarred and calloused, capable of such terrible things. But as I wrapped them in clean gauze, all I could think was how gently they'd touched me that night on the terrace. "Why are you doing this?" he asked hoarsely. "Because you need someone to..." I tied off the bandage. "Because everyone else in your life either fears you or uses you. Because someone has to remind you that you're human. I'm not, you are." I pressed my palm to his chest, feeling his heartbeat thunder beneath my hand. "You bleed. You hurt. You care so much it's destroying you. That's human, Dante." He caught my wrist, his bandaged fingers gentle. "I don't deserve you. Probably not. I don't deserve this mess either." I tried to smile, but it came out wrong. "But here we are. Here we are," he echoed. Then he pulled me against him, burying his face in my hair. I felt him shake, this powerful, terrifying man trembling in my arms like he was the one who needed protection. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I pulled you into this." "Then let me go." His arms tightened. "I can't. I know." We stood there in that sterile command center, surrounded by evidence of violence and surveillance, holding each other like lifelines. Above us, alarms started blaring. Luca burst through the door. "Boss, 3 cars just breached the north perimeter. The Morellas, they're coming now." Dante's entire demeanor shifted. The vulnerable man vanished, replaced by the predator I'd glimpsed in the restaurant. He set me away from him, his expression going cold and deadly. "Take her to the safe room. Full lockdown protocol. I'm not hiding while... Now, Luca." His eyes met mine one last time and I saw everything there. Love, regret, savage determination. Keep her safe, whatever it costs. "Dante." He kissed me then hard, desperate, claiming. It tasted like copper and goodbye. "Stay alive," he growled against my lips. "I'm not done with you yet." Then he was gone, shouting orders, moving toward the stairs with the fluid grace of a man going to war. Luca grabbed my arm. "Miss Valentina, please." I let him pull me toward a different door, toward safety, toward a locked room where I wouldn't see what was about to happen. But as gunfire echoed through the estate, sharp cracks that made my ears ring and my heart stop, I knew one thing with terrible certainty. The man I was falling for was about to paint his beautiful home red, with blood. And it was all because of me. The safe room was exactly what it sounded like, windowless concrete, reinforced walls, enough supplies to survive a siege. Luca sealed me inside with 2 guards and a terse instruction. "Don't open this door for anyone but me or Mr. Caruso." Then the locks engaged, and I was alone with 2 stone-faced men and the sound of my own racing heartbeat. Above us, the house erupted into chaos. Gunfire, shouting, the crash of breaking glass. I paced the small room like a caged animal, every instinct screaming at me to do something, anything, except hide, while Dante fought for his life. "How long does this usually last?" I asked one of the guards. He didn't answer, didn't even acknowledge I'd spoken. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Then, finally, the intercom crackled. "Safe room Alpha. Status?" Luca's voice. The guards relaxed fractionally. "Secure. Package is safe." Package. That's what I was now. Cargo to be protected and delivered. The locks. Disengaged with a series of mechanical clicks. Luca stepped through, and my stomach dropped at the sight of him. His suit was torn, blood spattering his face and shirt. A gash ran along his forearm. "Is he..." I couldn't finish the sentence. "Mr. Caruso is alive. He wants to see you." "What happened up there?" "War," Luca said simply. "Come." He led me back through the command center, now staffed with even more men, all moving with urgent efficiency, and up the stairs. I could smell gunpowder and copper. My hands shook as we climbed. The main floor was a disaster. Bullet holes in the walls, shattered artwork, overturned furniture, and blood. So much blood smeared across the marble floor in dark streaks. "Oh my God," I whispered. 4 dead Morellis. 2 wounded and taken for questioning. None of ours lost. Luca's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was reciting grocery lists instead of body counts. It could have been worse. He opened the door to Dante's study. Dante stood at the dadders, windows overlooking the city, his back to me. He'd removed his blood-soaked shirt, revealing a muscular back crisscrossed with old scars, knife wounds, burn marks. The map of a violent life. Fresh bruises were already blooming purple along his ribs. "Leave us," he said without turning. Luca closed the door behind me. "Dante, they're all dead." His voice was empty, devoid of emotion. "The men who photographed you, the scouts who followed you home, the soldiers who breached my gates." He turned slowly, and I sucked in a breath. His face was a mask of blood, split lip, bruising along his jaw, one eye swelling shut. But his expression was worse than the injuries. Cold, hollow. The gentle man from our dinners had been completely erased. "Is this what you wanted to see?" He gestured to himself, to the carnage visible through the doorway. "This is what I am, Valentina. This is what happens when someone threatens what's mine." I moved toward him. He stepped back. "Don't. You'll get blood on your clothes." "I don't care about my clothes." I reached for him anyway, and he caught my wrists not rough but firm. "You should care. You should run as far from me as possible." His grip tightened. "I just killed 4 men in my own home. Tomorrow there will be retaliation. The Morellis won't let this stand. This war is going to escalate, and you're in the center of it because I was selfish enough to want you. You didn't start this. I did." He released me, turning away. "The moment I decided you mattered, the moment I let myself feel something real instead of keeping you at a distance, I painted a target on your back with my own selfishness. So, what are you saying? That this was a mistake?" "Yes." The word cut like a blade. I felt something crack in my chest. "I see. No, you don't." He whirled on me, and now I saw past the cold mask to the anguish beneath. "I'm saying I should never have pulled you into this world. I should have let you walk away that first. I should have been strong enough to protect you from myself. I made my own choices. You didn't know what you were choosing." His shout echoed through the study. "You didn't understand what it means to be connected to me. The danger. The violence. The fact that loving me makes you a weapon anyone can use against me." "Loving you?" My voice came out small. "Is that what this is?" He froze, then laughed bitter, broken. "Of course it is. Why else would I be tearing myself apart trying to figure out how to keep you safe, while knowing the only way to truly protect you is to cut you loose? Don't I get a say in this? No. Flat. Final. Because you'll choose wrong. You'll choose me, even though I'm poison. Even though staying by my side means living in constant fear, becoming a target, watching me do terrible things and pretending you can accept it. You don't know what I can accept. I watched you clean my bloody hands 2 hours ago." He slammed his palm against the desk, making me flinch. "I saw your face when you heard the gunfire. You're not built for this, Valentina. You're good and soft and real, and this world will eat you alive." "Then teach me," I said desperately. "Teach me how to survive here. By becoming like me, hard and cold and capable of violence without hesitation?" He shook his head. "I won't do that to you. I won't watch you lose everything that makes you you just to stay in my bed." The words hit like physical blows. "Is that what you think I am? Someone who'd change everything just for sex? I think you're someone who sees the man instead of the monster." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And that makes you far more dangerous to yourself than I ever could be." Silence fell between us, heavy with all the things we couldn't say. Then footsteps echoed in the hallway. Luca appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. "Boss, you need to see this." "Not now. It's about Miss Valentina." My blood went cold. Dante's entire body went rigid. Luca crossed to the desk and laid down a manila envelope. Inside were more photographs, but these weren't surveillance shots of me going about my day. These were older, much older. My mother's face stared up from faded images. Young, beautiful, laughing. And beside her my breath stopped. Stood a man I'd never seen before. Dark hair, handsome, his arm around her waist with possessive intimacy. "Where did you get these?" I whispered. "From the Morelli soldier we captured." Luca's voice was carefully neutral. He had them in his pocket. Said they were his insurance policy. Dante picked up one of the photos, his jaw working. Tell her. Tell me what? My voice rose. Luca, what am I looking at? That man with your mother? He met my eyes with something like pity. That's Antonio Morelli, head of the Morelli family. The world tilted sideways. No, my mother never, she wouldn't. Look at the date stamp. Dante's voice was hollow. I grabbed the photo with shaking hands. The date printed in the corner made my knees go weak. 26 years ago, 9 months before I was born. No, I breathed. That's not possible. My father he died before I was born, my mother said. Your mother lied. Dante set down the photo carefully, like it might shatter. Or she never knew the truth. Antonio Morelli has a reputation for seducing women and discarding them. Your mother wouldn't be the first. Why are you telling me this? Tears burned my eyes. What does this have to do with anything? He looked at me then, and I saw devastation in his dark eyes. It means you're not just a woman I pulled into this world, Valentina. It means you were born into it. It means the Morellis have a legitimate claim to you. Blood is everything in our world. I'm not one of them. Your DNA says otherwise. He turned away, his shoulders rigid. And that changes everything. Because now this isn't just about protecting you from external threats. It's about protecting you from your own family. They're not my family. I don't even know them. But they know you now. And Antonio Morelli doesn't forgive bastard children. He'll either try to claim you, use you to strengthen his bloodline, or eliminate you as a loose end. Dante's hands clenched into fists. Either way, you're in more danger than I ever imagined. I sank into a chair, my mind reeling. My whole life, my mother's careful silence about my father, the way she'd moved us around when I was young, her fear of putting down roots suddenly made terrible sense. She'd been running from him, from this world. And I'd walked right back into it by falling for Dante Caruso. What do we do? I asked numbly. We do nothing. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless. I'm putting you on a plane tonight. New identity. Clean papers. Enough money to start over somewhere. The Morellis and Carusos will never find you. You're sending me away. I'm saving your life. By making the decision for me, anger cut through the shock. By deciding what I can and can't handle? Yes. He finally looked at me, and I saw everything in his eyes. Love, fear, desperation. Because if you stay, you die. And I can't watch that happen. I won't. So that's it? You get to ruin my life twice, once by dragging me into your world, and again by throwing me out of it? If that's what keeps you breathing? Yes. I stood on shaking legs. And what about what I want? What about the fact that I stopped, the words catching in my throat. Say it, he demanded hoarsely. Whatever you're thinking, say it. I love you. The confession escaped like a wound opening. I love you, you impossible, infuriating, violent man. And I don't want to run. His face crumbled. For one heartbeat, I saw the man beneath the monster, vulnerable, terrified, desperately in love. Then the mask slammed back into place. Then you're a fool, he said coldly. Luca, escort Miss Valentina to the car. Make sure she gets on that plane. Dante, please. We're done here. He turned his back on me. Goodbye, Valentina. Have a good life. Luca's hand on my arm was gentle but inexorable. I let him lead me toward the door, my vision blurring with tears. At the threshold, I looked back one last time. Dante stood at the window, his silhouette rigid against the city lights. His shoulders shook once, just once, before he went perfectly still. It was the last time I saw him. For 3 days, at least. The safe house was a sterile apartment in Queens. 2 bedrooms, basic furniture, guards stationed outside 24/7. Luca had delivered me there with efficiency and silence, ignoring my tears, my arguments, my desperate pleas to see Dante one more time. It's for your own good, Miss Valentina, he'd said as he handed me a new passport. The name inside was Rachel Thompson. In 3 days, you fly to Portland. New life, clean slate. Then he'd left me alone with my new identity and the shattered remains of my heart. I should have been grateful. Dante was saving my life, protecting me from a world I'd never asked to be part of. The logical part of my brain understood that. The rest of me wanted to burn his beautiful estate to the ground. On the second night, Sophia called. Where are you? Her voice was thick with tears. Dante won't tell me anything. He just said you weren't coming back, that it wasn't safe. Valentina, what happened? I can't explain. I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm so sorry. He's been different since you left. Colder. He locked himself in his study and won't come out. Even Luca's worried. She sniffled. Did he hurt you? Because if he did, No. He's trying to protect me. My voice cracked. He's doing what he thinks is right. By sending you away? That's not right. That's stupid. A pause. Do you love him? The question hung in the air. Yes, I whispered. Then why are you letting him make you leave? Why indeed? Because he'd decided I couldn't handle his world? Because some biological father I'd never met might pose a threat? Because Dante Caruso thought he knew what was best for everyone? I have to go, Sophia. Wait, there's something you should know. About the Morellis. Her voice dropped. I overheard Luca talking to Dante. Antonio Morelli isn't trying to claim you. He's denying you exist. He's calling you a liar and a fraud, saying your mother was a nobody who probably had a dozen men she could have blamed. Cold fury washed through me. What? But that's not all. He's put out a contract. On you. He's saying you're trying to infiltrate the family, that you're working with Dante to destabilize them from inside. She was crying now. Valentina, they're going to kill you anyway. Sending you away won't stop it. The apartment door burst open. Not Luca, not the guards. 4 men in dark clothes, guns drawn, moving with military precision. I dropped the phone and ran. The bedroom had no exit except the window. I fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip it. Behind me, footsteps pounded closer. The window opened, 4 stories up. The fire escape was just out of reach. A hand grabbed my hair, yanking me backward. I screamed and clawed, catching someone's face, feeling skin tear under my nails. Morelli wants you alive, a voice growled. But he didn't say unharmed. Pain exploded across my face as a fist connected with my jaw. I tasted copper. The room spun. Then gunfire. Real gunfire, not the distant sounds from Dante's estate. This was close, immediate, deafening. My attacker dropped, blood spraying across the wall. Another man fell before he could turn. Through the haze of pain and terror, I saw him, Dante. He moved through the apartment like death incarnate, precise, efficient, absolutely merciless. 2 shots, center mass, dropping the 3rd man. The 4th tried to surrender. Dante shot him anyway. Then he was crouching in front of me, his hands cupping my face, his eyes wild with fear. Valentina, Valentina, look at me. Are you hurt? I couldn't speak. Could only stare at the blood, so much blood, and the bodies scattered across the floor. I've got you. I've got you. He lifted me like I weighed nothing, carrying me through the carnage. Luca appeared with a medical kit. More men secured the perimeter. How did they find me? I managed to choke out. A leak. Someone in my organization sold your location. Dante's voice was flat, emotionless. They've been dealt with. You killed them too. Yes. He set me on the couch, tilting my face toward the light. His fingers were gentle despite the violence still radiating from him. Your jaw's going to bruise, but nothing's broken. Did they touch you anywhere else? No. You got here in time. Barely. His hands shook as he pressed an ice pack to my face. 30 seconds later and... He stopped, his jaw clenching. I almost lost you. You sent me away, I said, anger cutting through the shock. You decided what was best for me, without asking. You made me leave, and it almost got you killed. He pulled back, standing abruptly. This safe house was supposed to be untraceable. The guards were supposed to be loyal. I did everything right, and it wasn't enough. It's never enough. Then what do we do? He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw a man at the end of his rope. Desperate, furious, terrified. We end this, he said quietly, once and for all. 3 hours later, I stood in Dante's command center watching him orchestrate war. He'd pulled me deeper into his world instead of pushing me away, not because he'd changed his mind about the danger, but because there was nowhere left to run. The Morellis knew about me now. My face was circulating through the underworld. Running would just make me an easier target. We hit them tonight, Dante was telling his assembled men. Every Morelli operation simultaneously. Their clubs, their warehouses, their gambling dens. We burn it all. Boss. That's... One of the lieutenants hesitated. That's total war. The commission will... Fuck the commission. Dante's voice was ice. Antonio Morelli put a hit on an innocent woman. He sent soldiers into my safe house to murder her. That breaks every rule we have. The other families will back me or get out of my way. And if they don't, then I'll burn them too. I watched him command his army, this man I'd fallen in love with, and saw clearly what he was. Not just a criminal. Not just a killer. A force of nature, brutal, unstoppable, willing to destroy everything to protect what he claimed as his. It should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something close to awe. Valentina. He crossed to me, lowering his voice. I need you to stay here, underground, behind locked doors with my best men. I'm tired of hiding, and I'm tired of watching you almost die. He gripped my shoulders. Please, this one thing. Let me do this knowing you're safe. I searched his face, the bruises from earlier, the exhaustion in his dark eyes, the desperate love he could no longer hide. Come back to me, I whispered. Always. He kissed me hard, claiming, a promise sealed in violence. I'm not losing you, not to the Morellis, not to fate, not to anything. Then he was gone, taking half his men with him, leaving me in the concrete bunker with guards and monitors and the creeping certainty that tonight would change everything. The feeds showed chaos erupting across the city. Morelli's nightclub engulfed in flames, their warehouse district cars exploding like fireworks. The Morelli family compound under siege, gunfire lighting up the darkness like lightning. And in the center of it all, like a conductor orchestrating symphony of destruction, was Dante Caruso. I watched him fight, watched him kill, watched him tear through Antonio Morelli's empire with systematic, ruthless efficiency. This was the monster everyone feared, the man who'd murdered his own father, the criminal who ruled the city through blood and terror. And I loved him. God help me, I loved every terrible, violent, impossible part of him. Miss Valentina. Luca appeared at my side, his expression grim. You need to see this. He pulled up a different feed, the Morelli compound, interior cameras. And there, in what looked like a study, stood Dante and Antonio Morelli. My biological father, the man who'd abandoned my mother, who'd denied my existence, who'd put a price on my head rather than acknowledge his mistake. Sound, I demanded. Should have claimed her, Dante was saying, his gun aimed steady at Antonio's head. Should have brought her into your family when you had the chance. Protected her like she deserved. Antonio sneered. That whore's bastard means nothing to me. Kill her. Keep her. I don't care. Wrong answer. The gunshot echoed through the speakers. Antonio Morelli crumpled to the floor. And I felt nothing. No grief, no horror, just a cold sense of finality. Dante had killed my biological father, had erased the man whose blood I carried, had started and ended a war in a single night, all to keep me safe. The feeds went dark as his men secured the compound. My phone buzzed a text from Dante. It's done. I'm coming home. Home. When had his estate become home? When had this violent, impossible man become my whole world? I didn't know. I just knew that when he walked through that door covered in blood and smoke, victory and devastation written on his face, I would run to him, and I would never let go. He returned at dawn. I was waiting in his study, watching the sun rise over a city that would wake to news of the Morelli family's destruction. 14 dead, dozens wounded. An empire dismantled in a single night of coordinated violence. All for me. The door opened. Dante stood silhouetted against the hallway light, and I barely recognized him. Blood streaked his face and clothes. Gunpowder residue darkened his hands. His eyes were hollow, exhausted. But when they found me, something ignited behind the emptiness. You waited, he said hoarsely. I told you to come back to me. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms with bruising intensity. I felt him shake, this powerful, terrifying man, trembling like a leaf in my embrace. I killed him, he whispered into my hair. Your father. I put a bullet in his brain and felt nothing but satisfaction. He wasn't my father. He was a sperm donor who abandoned my mother and tried to murder me. I pulled back to meet his eyes. You're not the monster here, Dante. He was. I killed 14 men tonight. Who would have killed me tomorrow? I cupped his bloody face in my hands. I'm not naive anymore. I understand what you did, what you had to do, and I'm not running from it. Something broke in his expression. You should hate me for dragging you into this, for making you watch, for... I kissed him, not gentle, not questioning, claiming. His response was immediate and desperate, years of control shattering as he backed me against the desk. his hands in my hair, his mouth devouring mine like I was oxygen, and he was drowning. I tasted copper and smoke and violence, and none of it mattered because he was alive and here in mine. "Valentina," he groaned against my lips. "We shouldn't, you're in shock. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly." I pulled his face back to mine. "I love you. I choose you. Even with the blood and the violence and the darkness. I choose you. You'll regret it. Someday you'll—" "Shut up." I kissed him again. Harder. "Stop telling me what I'll feel. Stop deciding what I can handle. I'm here. I'm staying. And if you try to send me away again, I'll make your life hell." He laughed broken, disbelieving, filled with wonder. "You're insane." "Probably. You bring it out in me." This kiss was different. Slower, deeper, loaded with everything we'd been holding back. His hands trembled as they traced my sides, like he was afraid I'd dissolve if he held too tight. I felt the desperation in every touch, the fear that this was temporary, that reality would crash back and steal me away. "I need you to understand something," he said, his forehead pressed to mine. "If you stay, if you really choose this, there's no going back. You'll be a Caruso in everything but name. Every enemy I have becomes yours. Every decision I make affects you. You'll watch me do terrible things and have to live with knowing why. I understand. Do you? Do you understand that the commission is going to demand answers? That the other families will test me to see if you're a weakness they can exploit? That for the rest of our lives, people will try to hurt you to hurt me? Yes." I met his eyes. "I understand all of it. And I'm still here." He searched my face like he was memorizing it. Then, with devastating gentleness, he lifted me onto the desk, stepping between my thighs. "I love you." The words sounded like they were ripped from somewhere deep and painful. "I love you so much it terrifies me. You're the only good thing in my life, and I'm going to ruin you." Too late. I'm already ruined. I wrapped my legs around his waist. Ruined for anyone else. Ruined for normal life. "You've destroyed me, Dante Caruso." "Then let me worship the ruins." What followed was both tender and desperate. Clothes removed with shaking hands. Kisses that tasted like violence and redemption. Touches that mapped scars and promises. He was gentle despite the hunger in his eyes. Careful despite the tension thrumming through his body. "Are you sure?" he asked one last time, poised at the edge of everything. I've never been more sure of anything. When we came together, it felt like the world shifted, like every moment, every choice, every act of violence had led us to this. He moved with reverent intensity, his eyes never leaving mine, and I saw everything there. The monster and the man. The killer and the protector. The criminal who'd burned the world for me. And I loved all of him. After, we lay tangled together on the leather sofa, his hand tracing lazy patterns on my skin. Through the windows, the city woke to its new reality. One Morelli family, one Caruso victory. "The commission meets tomorrow," Dante said quietly. "They'll want explanations, reparations. Some will push for my removal from power. Will they succeed? No. No uncertainty, no doubt. I'll give them enough truth to satisfy them, and enough fear to keep them in line. Antonio Morelli violated every code by targeting you. They'll accept his death or face the same fate. So confident. I have to be. Weakness now would invite chaos." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "But I need to know you can handle what's coming. The scrutiny, the judgment. They'll call you my whore, my weakness, the bastard Morelli, who seduced a Caruso. Let them talk. It will hurt you. I don't care what they say." I sat up, meeting his eyes. "I care about Sophia having a safe place to grow up. I care about you not carrying this burden alone. I care about building something real in the middle of all this darkness." He pulled me back down, tucking me against his chest. "How did I find you?" "You didn't. I found you. By refusing to be afraid. You should be afraid. Of me most of all. Maybe. But fear and love aren't mutually exclusive." I traced the scars on his chest, evidence of a life lived in violence. "I can be afraid of what you're capable of, and still love you for why you do it. That's a dangerous philosophy. So is loving you. But here we are." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Marry me." I froze. "What?" "Marry me." He shifted so we were face to face. "Not just for protection, though, it would help legally. Not just for appearances, though the other families would have to acknowledge you. Marry me because I can't imagine waking up without you. Because you're the only person who sees me, and doesn't flinch, because I'm completely, irrevocably yours. Dante. I know it's insane. I know we've only known each other a month. I know you should want romance and courting and normal proposals. His thumb traced my jaw. But nothing about us is normal. We were forged in violence and blood and impossible choices. So marry me, Valentina. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. I should have said no. Should have asked for time. For normal. For anything except tying my life to a man who'd killed his own father and 14 men in a single night. But when I looked at him, really looked at him, I saw my future. Terrifying and brutal and completely inevitable. Yes, I whispered. His smile was like dawn breaking. Yes. Yes. I'll marry you, you insane, violent, impossible man. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and full of promises. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I'd just sealed my fate. For better or worse, I was Dante Caruso's now. And he was mine. Outside the windows, the city gleamed in morning light, beautiful and deadly, just like the man in my arms. Our world, our life, our dangerous, impossible love. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. The meeting of the commission was held in a warehouse in Red Hook neutral territory, away from prying eyes, with enough exits that paranoid crime lords could pretend they felt safe. I wasn't supposed to attend. Women traditionally weren't present for commission business. But Dante had insisted, and what Dante Caruso wanted after dismantling the Morelli Empire in one night, he got. Stay close to me, he murmured as we entered. Don't speak unless directly addressed, and if things go wrong, they won't. If they do, Luca will get you out. Promise me you'll go with him. I looked at the man I'd agreed to marry, immaculate in a charcoal suit, his bruises hidden beneath makeup Sophia had expertly applied, every inch the powerful Dawn. But I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand never strayed far from the gun concealed beneath his jacket. I promise, I lied. If something happened to Dante, I wasn't running. Not anymore. The warehouse interior had been transformed into a makeshift courtroom. 5 families sat at a semicircular table, the Irish, the Russians, the Chinese, the remaining Italian factions, all watching us enter with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. At the center sat Vincent Romano, head of the commission. 73, white-haired, with eyes like a shark. He'd been mediating mob conflicts for 40 years. Dante Caruso. His voice carried through the space. You've requested this emergency session. The floor is yours. Dante stepped forward, his presence commanding despite being outnumbered. 18 days ago, I met a woman, a civilian with no connection to our world. I took an interest, nothing more. We're aware of your appetites, someone muttered. Dante's smile was razor sharp. Then you're aware. I'm selective. This woman Valentina was different, intelligent, brave. She looked at me and saw a man, not a monster. Get to the point, Caruso. The point is that Antonio Morelli discovered my interest. Rather than approaching me directly as honor would demand, he chose to target her. Surveillance. Threats. An attempted kidnapping from a safe house that should have been untouchable. Romano leaned forward. These are serious accusations. I have proof. Dante nodded to Luca, who distributed folders. Photographs. Communications. Testimony from the soldiers we captured. Antonio Morelli violated every code we hold sacred by targeting a civilian woman to punish a rival. So you started a war? The Russian Pacan said coldly. Killed 14 men. Destroyed half his operations. I eliminated a threat, Dante corrected. And I did it in one night to minimize collateral damage. No civilian casualties. No police involvement. Clean, efficient, total. You killed a sitting Don, Romano stated. Without commission approval. I executed a man who broke our most fundamental law. Civilians are untouchable. Dante's voice was ice. If Antonio Morelli had succeeded, if he'd killed Valentina, what message would that send? That any Don can murder innocent women to settle scores? That we're no better than animals? Silence fell over the assembly. There's more, Dante continued. Antonio Morelli didn't just target Valentina out of spite. He had a personal reason to want her dead. He gestured to me. Show them. I stepped forward on shaking legs, pulling the DNA results from my purse. Dante had insisted on official testing proof that couldn't be denied. Antonio Morelli was my biological father, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. He knew about me, had known for years. Rather than acknowledge me even in secret, he tried to have me killed to avoid any claim on his estate. The shock rippled through the room. He murdered your father? The Chinese representative asked. He murdered no one, I corrected. My mother never told him about me. She kept me hidden, raised me far from this world. I only learned the truth when his soldiers came for me. And now you're what? Caruso's revenge fuck? The Irish boss sneered. Dante moved before I could blink across the space, gripping the man's throat, slamming him against the wall. Speak about my fiancé with respect, or I'll rip your tongue out through your teeth. Dante, enough. Romano's shout echoed. Dante released the Irishman slowly, stepping back but keeping himself between me and everyone else. Valentina is under my protection. She will be my wife. Any insult to her is an insult to the entire Caruso family. Are we clear? Grudging nods around the room. Romano studied us both. Antonio Morelli broke the code. His death is justified. But Dante, this changes things. You've claimed his bastard daughter as your own. The Morelli family's remaining assets, their territory, their loyalties, all of it, falls to you by right of blood and conquest. I want none of it, Dante said flatly. Divide Morelli territory among the other families. All I want is peace and assurance that no one else will target Valentina. You're refusing an empire? The Russian sounded incredulous. I have my own empire. I don't need Morelli's scraps. Dante's hand found mine, squeezing. All I want is to marry this woman and be left in peace. Peace, Romano laughed without humor. You just started and ended a war in one night, and you want peace? I want to protect what's mine without constantly looking over my shoulder. Dante's voice was raw. I'm tired, Vincent. Tired of the violence, the paranoia, the endless cycle of revenge. I want to build something instead of destroying things. The admission hung in the air, vulnerable, honest, completely unexpected. Romano exchanged glances with the other commission members. Some silent communication passed between them. Very well, he finally said. The commission finds your actions justified. Antonio Morelli's death is sanctioned retroactively. His territory will be redistributed. And Valentina, he looked at me directly. You are recognized as legitimate, under commission protection, as Dante Caruso's intended. Any harm that comes to you will be considered an act of war against all of us. Relief flooded through me so intensely my knees nearly buckled. However, Romano continued, there are conditions. Dante, you will marry this woman within the month. A proper wedding, witnessed by the families, binding in our world and the legal one. No secret ceremonies, no quiet arrangements. You will claim her publicly. Agreed. And you, Romano pointed at me, you will learn our ways, the rules, the traditions. You're a Morelli by blood and a Caruso by marriage. That makes you uniquely positioned, uniquely dangerous. You will be educated in how our world works. I understand. Do you? He leaned back. Your children, if you have them, will carry both bloodlines. They'll inherit conflicts decades old. They'll be targets their entire lives. Do you truly understand what you're agreeing to? I looked at Dante, at the man who'd killed for me, who'd dismantled an empire to keep me safe, who'd stood before the most powerful criminals in the city and claimed me as his own. I understand, I said clearly, and I'm willing to face whatever comes, together. Romano nodded slowly. Then this matter is settled. The commission recognizes the union of Dante Caruso and Valentina Morelli. May your marriage bring peace instead of war. The drive back to the estate was silent. Dante's hand never left mine, his thumb tracing endless circles on my palm. You were incredible, he finally said. I was terrified. You were incredible. He pulled me closer. You stood before the commission and declared yourself mine without flinching. Do you know how rare that is? How powerful? I just told the truth. The truth is power in our world. He kissed my temple. 1 month. We have 1 month before you're legally, irrevocably mine. I'm already yours. Yes. His smile was pure possession. You are. When we arrived home, Sophia was waiting with champagne and a squeal of excitement. You're getting married. Dante told me before you left, but I had to wait until it was official, and now it is, and I get to be a bridesmaid, right? You get to be whatever you want. I laughed, hugging her tight. That night, wrapped in Dante's arms in his massive bed, I stared at the ceiling and marveled at how completely my life had transformed. 1 month ago, I'd been a waitress ignoring a rude customer. Now I was engaged to the most powerful man in the city, protected by the commission, carrying the bloodline of 2 feuding families. Regrets? Dante murmured against my hair. Not one. Liar. You regret the violence, the fear. I regret that it was necessary. I corrected. But I don't regret choosing you. He turned me in his arms, his dark eyes searching mine in the moonlight. I will spend every day of our marriage proving I'm worthy of that choice. You already are. No. He kissed me softly. But I'll try to become the man you deserve. Even if it takes forever. Forever. With Dante Caruso, forever would be violent and beautiful and completely insane. And I couldn't wait. 3 weeks later, I stood in front of a full-length mirror wearing a dress that cost more than my mother's car, preparing to marry a man who'd killed his father and 14 men to keep me safe. The wedding was being held at the Caruso estate, transformed into something out of a dark fairy tale with thousands of black roses, candles everywhere, and enough security to rival a presidential inauguration. Every major family in the city would attend. Every eye would be on us. You look like a queen, Sophia breathed, adjusting my veil. She wore deep burgundy, her hair swept up, looking more grown-up than a 13-year-old should. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. Dante threw up twice this morning. I laughed despite my nerves. Did he really? No. But he paced his study for 3 hours and threatened to shoot anyone who looked at him wrong. Luca had to confiscate his gun. She grinned. He's nervous too. You're not alone in this. A knock on the door. One of Dante's lieutenants, Marco, I'd learned his name, poked his head in. Miss Valentina? It's time. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The point of no return. I followed Marco through the estate, Sophia trailing behind as my only bridesmaid. We'd kept the wedding party small, intimate, despite the hundreds of guests waiting. This wasn't about spectacle. It was about claiming each other in front of the world that had tried to tear us apart. The ceremony was being held in the gardens, where Dante and I had shared our first kiss. White lights had been strung through the trees, creating a canopy of stars. Chairs were filled with dangerous men in expensive suits, and their equally dangerous wives. At the end of the aisle, flanked by Luca and his other trusted men, stood Dante. He wore a black tuxedo that fit like it was painted on, his dark hair swept back, his face clean-shaven for once. But it was his expression that stole my breath, raw vulnerability, fierce possession, and something that looked like wonder. The music swelled. I began to walk. Every step felt significant, past the Irish contingent who'd insulted me, past the Russians who'd questioned Dante's judgment, past Vincent Romano himself who watched with calculating approval. None of them mattered. Only the man at the end of the aisle, whose eyes never left mine. When I reached him, he took my hands in his, and I felt him trembling. "Hi," I whispered. "Hi." His smile was devastating. "You're so beautiful I can't breathe." That's my line. The officiant cleared his throat, a priest who'd been paid extremely well to summon. Ignore the guest list and focus on the sacrament. He began the traditional words, but I barely heard them. All I could see was Dante. All I could feel was his hands gripping mine like I was the only thing keeping him anchored. "The couple has prepared their own vows," the priest announced. Dante went first, his voice rough with emotion. "Valentina, I'm not good at pretty words. I'm better with violence and control and making people fear me. But you saw past all of that to the man underneath. The one who was lonely and tired and desperate for something real." His thumbs brushed my knuckles. "I can't promise you a normal life. I can't promise you safety or peace or anything that regular people get to have. What I can promise is that I will love you with everything I am, that I will protect you with my last breath, that every terrible thing I do, every choice I make, will be in service of keeping you safe and happy." He paused, his jaw working. "I know I don't deserve you. I know. You're too good for the darkness I bring. But I'm selfish enough to keep you anyway, to bind you to me so completely that you can never escape. Because you're my salvation, Valentina. My one good thing in a life built on violence and blood." Tears streamed down my face. "I love you. I know. God help you, I know." He smiled through his own tears. "Your turn to condemn yourself." I took a shaky breath. "Dante Caruso, I should be running from you. Every logical part of my brain screams that I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. You're dangerous and violent and completely insane." Soft laughter rippled through the audience. "But you're also the most honest person I've ever met. You've never lied to me about what you are. You've shown me your darkness and your light. and trusted me to make my own choice. I squeezed his hands. I choose you, not despite the violence, not despite the danger, but because of the man you are underneath it all, the one who reads to his cousin, who cries over the innocent people he's hurt, who would burn the world for the people he loves. My voice strengthened. I can't promise I'll always understand your choices. I can't promise I won't fight you on things or challenge you when you're wrong. But I promise to stand beside you, to be your conscience when the darkness gets too heavy, to love you even when you think you're unlovable. I pulled his hands to my heart. You're my impossible, beautiful, terrifying disaster. And I'm yours, completely, forever. The priest's voice broke through our locked gazes. By the power vested in me, and witnessed by all gathered here, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may. Dante didn't wait. He pulled me against him and kissed me with enough passion to make several older guests gasp. I kissed him back, pouring everything into it: love, fear, commitment, desire. When we finally broke apart, the garden erupted in applause. Mrs. Caruso, he murmured against my lips. Mr. Caruso. Mine. Yours. The reception was lavish champagne flowing 5-course meal, dancing under the stars. But halfway through dinner, Dante leaned in and whispered, "How much longer do we have to stay? It's our wedding reception. At least another few hours. I'll give everyone 30 minutes. Then I'm carrying you upstairs and not letting you leave our bed for 3 days." Heat flooded through me. That's very presumptuous. That's a promise. His hand found my thigh under the table. I've been patient long enough. You're my wife now. Mine to touch, mine to claim, mine to worship properly. I bit my lip. 20 minutes. His laugh was dark and delicious. Deal. True to his word, exactly 20 minutes later, Dante stood and announced, "My wife and I are retiring for the evening. Continue celebrating. Drink my wine, eat my food. But remember, anyone who causes trouble answers to me tomorrow." Then he swept me into his arms, literally swept me up bridal style, and carried me through the estate, while our guests cheered and whistled. "I can walk," I protested. "But why would I let you?" He kicked open the door to our bedroom, his and mine, forever. I've fantasized about this moment for weeks. Oh? You, in this dress. Me, slowly removing every piece of it. He set me down carefully, his eyes dark with desire, and then making love to my wife until she forgets every man who came before me. There weren't that many. I don't care if there were none, or 100. His fingers found my wife. Zipper. After tonight, I'm the only man who'll ever touch you again, the only one who'll make you scream, the only one who'll worship every inch of your perfect body. The dress pooled at my feet. I stood in delicate white lace, my heart racing as Dante's eyes devoured me. "You're overdressed," I managed to say. "Then undress me." I did, slowly revealing the powerful body beneath the tuxedo. His scars, his tattoos, the evidence of a violent life lived. Each mark had a Raudfriese story, and I kissed every one as I uncovered them. "Valentina," he groaned when I reached his belt. "Husband." The word seemed to snap his control. He lifted me onto the bed, covering my body with his, and showed me exactly what it meant to be loved by Dante Caruso. It was reverent and desperate, gentle and claiming, everything I'd imagined and more. "I love you," he gasped as we moved together. "I love you too. Say you're mine. Say you'll never leave." "I'm yours," I promised between kisses. "Forever. I'll never leave. Even when I'm terrible? Even when the darkness wins? Especially then." I pulled his face to mine. "Because that's when you need me most." We loved each other through the night, desperate, tender, passionate. And as dawn broke over the city that belonged to my husband, I knew that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Epilogue. 6 months later, I woke to Sophia's excited chattering from downstairs and the smell of coffee. Dante's side of the bed was still, warm, but he'd clearly been up for a while. Finding my robe, I padded downstairs to find absolute chaos. Sophia was arguing with Luca about college applications. Dante was on the phone conducting business while simultaneously flipping pancakes. The kitchen was full of men in suits. His daily security briefing apparently moved to accommodate family breakfast. "You're making pancakes?" I said, kissing his cheek. Sophia requested them. He covered the phone. "How'd you sleep, Mrs. Caruso?" "Perfectly. You?" "Better with you beside me." He returned to his call, one arm snaking around my waist to keep me close. This was our life now. Dangerous men in the kitchen, security briefings over breakfast, Sophia treating us like the parents she'd never really had. It was chaotic and strange and completely imperfect. It was also everything. Valentina. Sophia bounded over. Dante said I can apply to Yale. Yale. Can you believe it? You're brilliant. Of course you're applying to Yale. But it's far. Away. He'll worry. I'll worry everywhere. Dante interjected, ending his call. Might as well worry while you're getting the best education possible. I watched him, this man who'd killed for me, who'd dismantled an empire to keep me safe, who was now making pancakes and encouraging his teenage cousin's dreams, and felt overwhelmed with love. What? He asked, catching my expression. Nothing. Just this. Us. His smile was pure warmth. Weird? Perfect. Later that night, after Sophia was in bed and the house was quiet, Dante and I stood on the terrace where everything had begun. The city glittered below, peaceful for once. Any regrets? He asked, pulling me against his chest. About marrying a criminal? None. Liar. Okay, I regret the 8 death threats I got this month, and the tabloid that called me the mob's new queen. And what about the good parts? I turned in his arms. Every moment with you is a good part. Even the scary ones. Even the ones where I want to strangle you for being overprotective. I'm not overprotective. You threatened a grocery store clerk for asking my name. He was too interested. I laughed, kissing him. I love you, you ridiculous man. I love you too. His expression turned serious. I know this life isn't what you dreamed of. I know it's dangerous and dark and... It's ours, I interrupted. That's all that matters. You really mean that. I really do. We stood there in the darkness, the city lights below, and I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice. Loving Dante Caruso was dangerous. It was complicated and messy and would probably shorten my life by years from stress alone. But it was also real. Raw. Honest in ways normal relationships never could be. He'd shown me his darkness and I'd chosen to stay. And I'd keep choosing him. Every single day. For the rest of our violent, beautiful, impossible life together. Valentina? Yes? Thank you. For what? For seeing me. For seeing me. Staying. For making me believe I could be more than the monster. His voice was thick with emotion. For being my salvation. I pulled his face down to mine. And thank you for being my disaster. Your disaster? My beautiful, terrifying, perfect disaster. He laughed, that genuine, unguarded sound I'd fallen in love with, and kissed me under the stars. Our story had begun with a rude customer and an ignored waitress. It had evolved through violence and danger and impossible choices, and it would continue for better or worse, in darkness and in light for the rest of our lives. Because some love stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with, I choose you anyway. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.